No complaints.
It was pretty cool.
Was it cool?
Yeah. You must have walked here. If you walk up the hill, you could easily make it.
I did walk here, right?
I heckled the coach.
You heckled the coach. You.
He's like, no ball. Yes. He's like, thumbs up. You know.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you had a good time. Somebody got a benefit from our season tickets this year.
Nobody else wanted to go.
Nobody else wanted to go. I'm surprised. You were the only one who stepped up. I just so stepped up. Cool. Nah, he didn't want to go. Maybe he was able to get in because he's a press guy. He could have got in probably without tickets.
He probably would have.
Yeah. How you doing, Liz?
I'm doing well.
Good to see you.
What is that interesting chin on your
That's the Moravian Church.
Oh, okay.
My wife and I are big Bethelites. My mother was born and raised there, and we met in Bethlehem. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, we
I
got
see
engaged
the
there.
star all the time. No,
Yeah, that's the church.
or the thing from the box boy.
Yeah. This was issued the 100th anniversary of the church. 200, because they were built in 1803. So like 2003, whatever the issue is.
They must have had a wooden building before that.
They had two different buildings, of course, stone and stone.
Oh.
And they're still up. There's two now. Intact as well.
Oh, really?
There's a chapel, and then the meeting house, which is on Church Street. All three buildings are still standing. 1741, 1750 something. And then the one before that, the Moravians retain everything.
There's hope for my cottage.
Although there's some
Probably not built with solid.
Probably not. Neither my house, but I won't be around to.
There's that, yeah.
Yeah, I did that myself. Finally finishing up that all the work we did. I don't know, a long time trying to shuffle all the duties within, but you get it.
I'm smiling.
No, it really is.
You know what? I need to do that. Or I need to get a picture of my face, right, with a smile on it and put it on.
Oh. They have.
I've got a massive.
Best I've ever done. Yeah, you do a lot better if you're planting around. But I got something last year I haven't done.
We grow some tomato there.
I don't know anybody. How you doing? You look like you're on fire.
The other one lifted up there, wait a
Ready, Linda? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to start the Personnel Committee meeting, 4 o'clock. It is Wednesday, August 19th. And the agenda, we have at this time courtesy of the floor. Okay, hearing none. We have, we can start out with the review of the county executive's reappointments. The first one is a reappointment for the Area Agency on Aging Advisory Council. A reappointment for Carol Durka from Bethlehem. It's being considered for a 2-year position. 2-year term beginning August 21st, 2020 to end July 2nd, 2022. Questions or comments from the members of the Personnel Committee? From anyone else? Ms. Fargo Hefner?
No, I was going to move it forward.
Move it forward, okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Second one is a reappointment for the Area Agency on Aging Advisory Council. Francis Green from Easton is being considered for a 2-year term beginning August 21st, 2020 to end July 2nd, 2022. And there is a summary resume attached. Questions or concerns?
Move forward.
Move forward. Thank you. That was moved forward. The next one is, Mr. Myers moved it forward. Yep, thank you. That was for Francis Green from Easton. Okay, third one is a reappointment to the Area Agency on Aging Advisory Council, reappointment. Anne Marie Pinella from Easton. Ms. Pinella is being considered for a 2-year term beginning August 21st, 2020 to end July 2nd, 2022. Move forward. Questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Okay. Okay, next we have another reappointment. Area Agency on Aging Advisory Council, Mr. Peak. Mr. Peak is being considered for a 2-year term from Hellertown, beginning August 21st, 2020 to end July 2nd, 2022. Questions or concerns?
Motion to move forward?
Okay, thank you. So moved. Okay, next we have an appointment for the Workforce Board, Lehigh Valley, in the labor category. William Riley from Hellertown. Mr. Riley is being considered for an appointment to the Workforce Board representing the labor category. He will fulfill the term of James Riley, who has resigned. William Riley's term will run between July 21st, 2020 and June 30th, 2023. And there is a letter and a summary resume.
Make a motion to move it forward.
Okay, questions? So moved. Thank you, Mr. Myers. Okay, which now leads us to, okay. All right, now we have position requests from County Executive, Human Services, Children, Youth, and Families, at the request of Susan Wondolowski, Director of Human Services, has prepared calculations of the financial impact of creating the following 2 positions, creating 1 attorney, 2, and create 1 legal assistant, 2. Attached is the economic impact summary, financial, and the justification at the bottom. The attorney 2 position is needed to better meet the state's regulatory changes that involve shorter timeframes for hearings and an increase in workload for the agency's legal team. And the legal assistant 2 position is needed to better meet the state's regulatory changes that involve shorter timeframes for hearings and an increase in workload for the agency's legal team. At this time, is there any questions or concerns about these positions? I do know that this was mentioned prior to tonight's committee meeting, that they were going to do this.
Julie's here. She-
Sue, could you elaborate on this a little bit more, please?
So just as a general statement, the positions that are in front of you for tonight for CYF are essentially positions that we are going to be required to have by the state because of some change in mandates and regulations. But I brought Julie because even though I could go through that, she can answer even more questions probably, and you can hear it straight from her.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Any questions for Julie?
Yeah,
That's
do you
what I
want to
asked.
explain
I'm
what
not-
that meant?
We want to know what it's all about.
Okay, there have been changes regulatory regarding which hearings we need to attend, what information we need to give for both custody, PFA, and we're having an increase in the Bureau of Hearing and Appeals, the BHA hearings, on our indicated and founded statuses. Right now, we have 4 full-time attorneys, 1 part-time attorney. They are overwhelmed with the number of new cases. Our dependency cases went from 297 in 2017. We're about 431 today. We've added 1 attorney since that time frame to our complement. And now that we need to represent our caseworkers at the PFA hearings and the custody hearings whenever we have any knowledge of the family on those cases, we need attorneys to be in multiple courtrooms at multiple times, and we are currently I think Mara asked for roller skates if we don't get this position, so. But
I don't know if they know who Mara is.
I'm sorry, Mara is our managing attorney here. And we're just trying to be able to have attorneys in all the court places we need to do. Our BHA hearings are down in Reading, so it's not even, if we have 1 or 2 attorneys representing our cases in Reading, we have nobody to represent up here. And we are, with the judges, with school attendance improvement court, with everything else that we have going on, we just don't have enough bodies to be in enough places right at this time. And as we're going through our paperwork and trying to find what cases we are active on, we get the list for the PFA hearings of who's coming up for custody hearings, everything else. The legal assistant's going to actually help look through the records to see if we have anything that we need to present to the attorneys and to the custody judges, and in which case we need attorneys to attend those as well.
Thank you.
And Sue said that these are going to be mandated, or they are mandated, or?
The laws changed in January. So right now, they are attending all the extra hearings and doing the extra legwork now, and it's not going well on some days. So we have help from the solicitor's office, and we have help from other attorneys, but we need to have people on staff to be able to do everything we need to do.
So I just want to
Does that
clarify.
answer your question?
That answered the first part of my question, but the second one was, is the state offering any money or any supportive funds for
Yeah, I was
this?
going to ask that question.
With the exception of the very last position we're asking for, the state's match is 80% to county's 20%. And the state has already approved all these positions
Okay,
for our
thank
budget.
you.
So as of July 1st, all these positions were approved by the state.
With the exception of which position you said is not?
The family finding caseworker 2 at the very end of the list is actually a 95% state, 5% county match.
Oh, aren't they nice?
They are.
Which one is that?
It's the family finding county caseworker 2.
We didn't get to
We didn't
that.
get that yet.
Yeah, we
We
didn't-
I was like, that's
We're
No,
not-
I
go
just
forward.
asked, she
One at a
said,
time.
she
All
said
of the
all
other
but, and I
positions.
asked, I wanted to know if that was 0, but apparently it's more, so.
Are you finished,
Yes, I am, thank you.
Ms. Zirinsky?
I just wanted to clarify that it's not that the state isn't mandating that you have these 2 employees. It's that the mandates by the state necessitate
Correct.
these things. Okay.
That is correct.
Also, what attorney wants to work for $92,000 a year? Is that good?
I know one that's working for less.
Really? Well, yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. McClure. Yes, no, thank you for your service, Mr. McClure.
This isn't about me, but this is a good opportunity. And I asked Mara to be here because, and Mr. Heckman probably knows this from his time over there, but these CYF attorneys are working on the weekends for this money. I mean, Mara, to get her work done, works on the weekends, and so does her staff. You just noted what they get paid. They do it because they love what they do and because they're engaged in public service, and they desperately need this help. I am constantly telling Sue to tell them to go home, and they don't listen because they literally cannot get their work done unless they're there on the weekends.
Wow.
Yep.
So is that because there's that much work to
Yes.
be done? Or
Yes.
because they have their attorneys in their own private practice or anything?
No,
like
no,
that?
they're full. Yeah, come on up, Mark, if you don't mind.
And before Maura answers that, not that I want this, that's not what attorneys make in CYF. That's the scale, and you come in at the bottom step. So you don't come in at, it's a lot less than that is my point. So these folks are working, as Maura can tell you if you would like to hear more, Saturdays and Sundays for less than $70,000 a year.
Well, I think that's important for everybody to know.
I agree.
So I think that's a question that we should ask.
Sure, if
Okay.
you're comfortable.
All right, hello, I'm Maura McGuire. I can confirm we have 4 full-time attorneys. We do not have time during the day to get any paperwork done at all, or research. If we want to complete paperwork or perform research, it's at home on the weekends. I have one of my attorneys who prefers to do it in the office, and I feel guilty every time I drive by and her car's there Saturday and Sunday. We simply do not. It's the nature of the job. If I walk into my office, one of the hardest things I do is go to the ladies' room because I'm stopped by 10 caseworkers on the way with emergencies on the way.
You take your magnet?
I do. I take my magnet. I do. They recognize my shoes. But it's the nature of the work that we do. I'll walk in a given morning with a set plan of what I'm going to accomplish, and if I'm not in a courtroom, I'm hit with all kinds of emergencies with the families we are involved with and the brand-new families that just came on the horizon. So right now, we are really struggling to prepare for court appearances the way we believe we should prepare, even on the weekends. I'm a little concerned because right now, our appeal hearings, when a parent is found to be an indicated perpetrator of abuse and they choose to appeal that doesn't take place here. It takes place in Reading. Never really sure why it's in Reading, but those hearings have been on hold since March. We are struggling now while all of those hearings are on hold, and I'm really concerned when all of a sudden I have to have attorneys spending days and days in Reading, how we're going to be able to cover everything here.
Well, I think this is really important work, and thank you. I'm sure you do this too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one thing, I imagine it's gonna take a while to get these folks up and running too, and you're already kind of overworked, so we appreciate you looking ahead and trying to fix the problem. Thank you.
Thank
Any other questions or concerns while she's here?
Move on.
Okay, motion to move, thank you. Ms. Hefner. Okay, the next one, we have well, there's more than 3 positions, but we'll start at the top. At the request of Susan Wondolowski, Director of Human Services, I've prepared the calculations of the final impact of the following 5 new positions to support the agency's intake units. And this is for children, youth, and family. Human Services. Create 1 administrative assistant, 1 full-time. Create 1 financial technician. Create 3 clerk typists, level 2. Is that level 2 or is it 2?
Two.
It's just a 2, okay. All right. So attached or enclosed, or whatever you want us to call it, is 3 financial sheets with the justification paragraph at the bottom. First one's the administrative assistant position is needed to meet an increase in administrative support workload in the agency intake units, including additional documentation due to regulatory changes by the state. And that would be for the 1 administrative assistant. For the create 1 financial technician,
Fiscal.
it's the fiscal technician position is needed to meet an increase in administrative support workload for the agency's intake units, including additional documentation due to regulation changes by the state. And the 3 clerk typist 2 positions are needed to meet an increase in administrative support workload for the agency intake units, including additional documentation due to regulatory changes by the state. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that, to explain it a little bit better before questions come, or it's
I'll be happy to
self-explanatory
add a
by the
little.
justification.
Our administrative assistant works with our Department of Public Welfare and does the children's health insurance changes when we have legal care and custody. So we make sure where the child is now being assigned medical insurance where that child resides, as opposed to if they're here and they have to see a doctor here and they're actually in Pittsburgh. You know, if the insurance stays here and they get placed in Pittsburgh or wherever else, they have to be able to find local medical providers. So they assist our staff doing that, and they input all the medical information into our child accounting profile system, which we call CAPS. That's our system, our database system for all of our clients. So we now have, this year, somewhere over 300. We just went into 300 this week with our placement list. Last year at this time, we were about 200, so our placements are up about 33%, and we have one person that does all of that. Combining with, she will be retiring next year, so we want backup, but also cross-training, and then they also back up another administrative assistant. So it's really doing a lot of the medical insurance stuff. I have one person that is well-versed in what she does. She's been doing it for 19 years, and she's going to train and then have help doing that, because if she's off for even a day or two, the placements really get stacked up and the insurance changes get stacked up.
What was your increase from last year to this year with that?
Last year, we were like 218, 219, somewhere where we started, and we ended at 300, and we have not been under 300 yet this year. Well, we just went under 300. It's 290, yeah. Just this week, we went under 300 placements, so for the first time. But it's been almost a third more than where it had been for a while.
And one person's been doing this all that time?
With a little bit of help. When I was her supervisor, she got behind, I would help her, and yeah, pretty much.
Has COVID, has that been a driver in some of these positions? The COVID pandemic?
Not really. It's been a rise in our placements. If anything, COVID may have helped that a little bit, because when we weren't having regular hearings to get children back out, you know, we might be down a little bit, but our placements are not coming in because of COVID. Nothing like that is changing because of COVID. It's just been one person doing it for a long time. She does have backup from one of the other people that are there, but we really need that second position at this time to keep all the information current and keep all that insurance information moving. The fiscal tech is the same thing. They do all of our state and federal qualifying paperwork to see what dollars we can draw down for every child in placement. And that's the same reasoning with our placements being higher. I have 2 staff that do all of that information. It's a lot of paperwork to track, as well as paying our vendors, paying our foster parents, paying everybody else. So it's not just tracking those placements. They have other things on their plate, and we are just trying to get our staffing up to where our numbers are right now. And that's why the state approved that. The back half of that is, with these people doing extra work, it's a little bit less for the caseworkers. And I've been here before to talk about caseworker turnover and children and youth. So we're kind of hoping it will help both pieces. If we have more helping with the fiscal and data, and the caseworkers don't have to chase down all that paperwork, it will assist when we have more people that actually can do that all day long in the office.
It's important work.
And the 3 clerk typist 2s, I know you said multiple times intake, but it's our intake and our ongoing position. So we are hoping that these will be people that can help type some of the case notes into the CAPS system. We're hoping that they can change some of the data when people move. Right now, the caseworkers have to go in and change all the addresses, change all that stuff. When we first went into the system, we traded some of our clerical staff for data staff, and we don't have the staffing that we had when we were in the Wolf building, when we weren't all digital. But now it's like almost going backwards, where it's time we need to help support the workers doing this again. For a while, the workers were comfortable doing it when we were more fully staffed with more senior workers. Right now, my senior workers are a year and a half, where that used to be my senior workers were 15, 20 years. So it's knowledge of the job, it's what you need to do, but it's also, as people change, this is stuff that really a clerical person can take care of. Changing the addresses, changing, you know, children's ages, changing placement addresses, those kinds of things in the system. They are also running, as our regulations require, that we run background checks on all of the alleged perpetrators, all of the family identified people that are on a case. As far as the adults, if there's any players, we have to run their criminal background check. We have to look in Childline, make sure they didn't have prior history there. Our clerical staff can do a lot of that too, so it'll free up the caseworkers to actually work with the families.
Question?
Basically, what you're bringing forth to us tonight is support staff, so your actual caseworkers and supervisors can do their job. Is that correct?
Correct.
This whole pile is pretty self-explanatory. Because as I kept looking forward more and more of this is support. And I don't know how we missed the boat on this, but let's get this straightened out, please.
I
Thank
take
you.
that as a motion to move
Hell
forward.
yes is the motion.
Okay.
Bill, can I ask a question?
Sure. Well, can we move this forward? Or
I was
you-
gonna ask a question about one of the
Oh,
positions.
I was just moving one. Okay, go ahead.
Oh,
Ask your
you're
question.
moving one at a
You
time.
can't talk then. You need
Oh, we're moving one at a time?
all of it, so.
You want to move it all forward? I mean, I don't care if anybody has, I just thought we'd go through each one, and that way, if anybody had any questions.
I think he's talking about moving the
The one you're talking about now.
positions
Okay.
forward.
He has a question on him.
I just had a question on the fiscal, the clerk typist too. That's
Sure.
all, the three. Are we still, I know they're inputting the caseworker's notes, right? They still do that?
They do not right now. The caseworkers put in most of their own notes right now.
They've been doing that
And
themselves?
when we went to this CAPS system, one of the things we did, it's a web-based system that the state required us to be web-based. We have mobile phones and mobile technology, so we had the caseworkers, they have the technology to do this in the field between visits. But when they are at the caseload sizes where we are now, they really don't have the time to be inputting all of their own notes. So we had traded some of our clerical staff when they used to type all the notes for us. We are trying to go back to that hybrid model. So caseworkers can still put some notes in, but the clerical staff can put the rest of them in. But there's other duties, changing addresses and everything else that Data used to
Where do
do.
we stand now with clerical, like the clerk typist staff, your pool that you have to, how many employees in that pool?
I
do
have
you
a full-time receptionist on the first floor. I have 2 people that back her up. I have 2 staff that just do child protective services. By regulation, every case we have, they have to have letters out on a certain time frame, as well as outcomes and everything to law enforcement if it's any type of that nature of incident. So I have 2 clerk typists that do that. I have 1 clerk typist that only scans, I shouldn't say only, but his major job is he scans in all the paperwork, all the medical reports, everything else into the child accounting profile system. And then I have the clerk supervisor.
So
That's what I have right now for clerical.
clerical supervisor and 3 people, that's it?
Well, she has 1 downstairs, I have 1 vacant position, and 3 upstairs.
Oh, okay. All right. I was just curious how it was going because I know there's
Right.
a lot you have to.
And we used to have a bigger clerical department, and
Yeah.
we, years ago,
Before the
chose to
sup-
trade it in for caseworker, right?
Yeah, I got you. All right, thank you. That's it.
Any other questions on these positions here on this page?
No.
Okay, I'll take that as a motion to move forward.
Motion by me.
Myers, moving along. We have another position request for Human Services, Children, Youth, and Family at the request of Susan Wondolowski, Director of Human Services. Calculation of the financial impact for 1 new position to support the agency's compliance with Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA. Create 1 social service aide, 2. And the financial impact and justification is attached. $29,157. Total salary, $53,330. And justification, County Social Services, aide 2, position is needed as part of the agency's compliance with the Every Student Succeeds Act, which was implemented this year, correct? Or was it last year?
It's been about 3,
3 years?
4 years right now.
Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Question? Go ahead.
What is the education level of somebody for this position?
You need to talk up there, too.
Okay, what's the education level for somebody of this position?
I believe high school graduate.
Oh, okay. Still, if you look at the take-home salary, it's $29,000. It's not a whole lot.
It's not. It's not.
Because the benefits are almost half of what they're getting. That's not a whole lot. And that's a full-time job.
That is a full-time job. Sometimes, rarely overtime. But these positions are, the social services aid positions are the workers that transport our children and/or parents to and from medical appointments, to and from school in the morning. So Every Student Succeeds Act, that was where we're seeing the biggest impact with getting kids to school. With that act, it's school stability. So we are not just, when a child moves from Bangor to Northampton, we're not just changing school districts all the time. We're trying to keep them what's in the best interest of the child. So until we do the best interest determination meetings, when we decide how long we think placement's going to be, when we decide what the child's attached to in school besides just the education and the teachers. We have some kids that are in bands, some kids that play football, some kids that are cheerleaders. We also have the young children that their only stability was that kindergarten classroom teacher and their friends in kindergarten because mom's been homeless or whatever before we place the children. We try to keep the children in the same school district wherever possible. We try not to disrupt their education, so we're not losing grade levels every time. Like when I first started Children and Youth, it was nothing for a 20-year-old to still be in 11th grade or 10th grade because of the number of times they moved and the number of times schools got changed. That's what this law is trying to prevent, and we just need extra help getting kids to school some mornings. So, you know, as we ramp up and place children, it's just one more person that's in the pool to be able to do this, but it's primarily this act of getting those kids to school on time is why we need the extra driver.
Okay.
Clarify this. You're telling me that this position is a person who transports these various to their schools?
To their schools, to and from the foster homes, from school back home. And then during the middle of the day, we also supervise visits with younger children. But the new position is really because of the larger number of people we need to go to school, so.
Okay, because my question to you is this, and have we inquired with that particular school district that child is in to transport them? That is a requirement of the school district.
This is usually, we do the transportation for the first maybe 10, 15 days.
And then
until
they go-
can arrange that transportation, depending on their special ed needs or their regular needs, get the school buses lined up, have the two schools work together, have that meeting to determine where that child's actually going to attend school, because we don't set up at the bus transfer until we actually know what school we're going to land in. We have some, it's a long period, but it's usually about 2 to 3 weeks that we drive. But with 300 children in care that move, anytime a foster home disrupts or anytime we have a new placement or anytime that child goes back home and the home school district wasn't the district the child was attending, we try to keep those children stable wherever we can.
I appreciate the fact you try to keep them where they
And once in a great
are.
while, if it's a huge distance that we can't get the school busing to, we drive and they share the cost.
Okay. In the same breath as a person who was on the school board, it's also on them. I don't care how far they got to go, because we had to transport kids from Easton to Pius to Quakertown.
Right.
That's on them to do. So if they ever give you some, please let me know about that, because I will remind them it's their responsibility. And John, you know that yourself too. It's not on us, but I'm glad you're trying to keep them where they are. It's very important because of stability. But you answered my question. Thank you. If no other questions, I'll move forward.
Another question.
Any other questions? Ms. Margaret Hefner?
The 95% on
No, this is an 80-20.
80/20.
80/20.
Can I ask another question?
Sure, go ahead, Ms. Zirinsky.
How many people does it take to transport all those kids? If you have two, if you're asking for two?
We don't transport all the children all the time, but we transport in that first 15 days of 10 to 15, depending on
Right, so how many
long it
kids
takes.
in that given period might you have on average?
Sometimes we have 2 or 3, sometimes we have a family of 4 or 5 that are in different
Oh,
homes.
okay.
It really is hit and miss, but the other half of their job then is they are there to help do the visits and do everything else when it's not just school kids. This particular position will be the early shift to get the children to school, though.
Okay, I was just thinking about logistics. I was like, how can you transport that many kids?
I have somebody that just schedules my social services aides. That's a full-time job, getting all our visits covered, all our schools covered.
Any other questions? Mr. Heckman?
No, it's just, to clarify, and you just did, I think, the aides, you're specifying the ESSA because it's gotten more involved, but the aides have been around forever. They're a critical part
Yes, they are.
of picking up kids or family. I mean, so this person, though, they're substantially going to just be doing this, but the other aides can help and chip in. But, I mean, you have, I don't know how many aides you would have at this point, but I know they've always fulfilled a huge.
If this is approved, it will be my 7th.
That's right, okay, thank you.
Move it forward.
Motion to move forward by Mr. Myers. Thank you, Mr. Myers. Moving along. Next, we have another request. Director of Human Services prepared the calculations for the financial impact of the following 5 new positions to support the agency's casework in the Division of Children, Youth, and Family. Create 1 caseworker supervisor. Create 5 caseworker 2. Please see attached. Justification and financial impact. In addition to that, there's also a memorandum.
No, the 4 caseworkers. Oh, is that in that? Okay.
One of the 5 caseworkers is the family.
Okay, very good. One of those 5 caseworkers is the family finder. That will be the 95.5.
Oh, one of these in this packet. Okay, everybody understand that? Thank you.
It would be for family finding, specific.
So one of the, you're actually asking for 4 caseworkers and an additional something else?
It's 1 supervisor, 4 caseworkers that will be doing ongoing casework or screening casework, and then 1 position is a family finding caseworker. Then their reimbursement is 95% to 5%.
What's your ratio of supervisors for caseworkers?
We are trying to get closer to 4 to 1, which will be what the state is recommending in,
That was my
I
next
think, another
question.
year or 2.
This is,
Question, go ahead.
So when the state gives you these positions and they'll say we'll fund them. When they give you these positions, they say I'll fund it at 80/20, or do they have a range? Is there a state range for these positions, and is that
There
designated
is a state
per
minimum and
county?
a state maximum for salaries, yes. We are somewhere in the middle of that with our county range of the state
I wondered
range.
if they designated that by, like, county class, or no?
It's kind of by class where you fall in that range, but I don't know exactly how they do their math at the state to make that range, so.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Cusick?
We're adding 5 positions here, or you're requesting 5 positions. My question is, how many current vacancies are there, and will you be able to fill these positions and keep them filled?
One of the reasons many caseworkers leave is because of caseload size. So yes, we have many positions vacant. We are hoping that when we can get these people in and get the caseloads lower, that they can stay, but it's also looking forward. If I'm fully staffed, I am above where the state is recommending us to get down to 10 to 1 cases. If I'm fully staffed and we divide all those cases, I still will need another caseworker or 2 sets of units, so we're looking at the big numbers.
Could I ask a clarification before you jump in on that? When you say 10 to 1 cases, is that child is a case, or is that a family as a case?
Family. We
So you
base
could
based
have
on
5 people in your 10 to 1 in just 1 case?
We could have more than that even, yes.
Yes, okay.
We have some families that might have 1 mother, and we're a mother-driven agency, so we judge our families by biological mother. Sometimes we'll have 2 or 3 fathers on that caseload with 3 or 4 children. So when we're doing our court work, it's not just 1 court summary, because you have to have a separate summary for every parent. So if the father has 2 children or 3 children, and then there's 2 different fathers, that's 5. Like, it's 3 different court summaries. So the way we do our cases right now, we will weight it as an unofficial case if they have to do more than 3 court summaries, but it's convoluted, yes. But it's not definitely just 5 people on that caseload, it's 10 families on that.
Oh, right, because when you say it's 10 to 1, it's not 10 to 1
families.
children, that's
Correct.
what I.
anyone family.
You're going to say something?
Yes, so, you're always good for that question, Mr. Cusick. That's okay, that's predictable, I don't mind that. We have had of a really fair amount of retirements in aging, and then some shifting in some of our other divisions, and we all know that CYF feeds every other division in human services. So more so than the first, I'm in like year 3, so more than even the first 2 years, we've had a lot of transfers, and we also have had another few people at least retire recently, resign from CYF, whether it's to move out of state, whether it is to have a job that's less than a 90-minute commute for the salary, It's a whole host of reasons, but we will not be able to keep these positions filled until we are out of civil service. And we're getting closer, but that's the answer to this. Because when we can cast our wide net and you can fill a whole lot of positions at one time and train those folks, the goal will be then a much quicker reduction of caseloads, which will help some casework retention. I'm not saying it's gonna solve everything. If children and youth is not for you, it's not for you, but it's your way into the county. And so we're always gonna have some level of turnover. But we have to be out of civil service in order to keep these seats filled. I think I said a couple years ago when I was here, Berks County, when they get out of it, I do forget if they either have 400 or 600 employees, and I do think it's on the higher end. And I asked them when they got out of civil service, I said, how many vacancies do you have today? And she said, 4. And I was like, that's insane. But you just have the ability to fill positions quicker, which then will have all the other effects that we're hoping for. I just wanted to make that point.
Are you finished?
And we need people to stop retiring from everywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, just to follow up, I think it is a good question, though. Before we add positions,
Absolutely,
I'd
I
like to know
totally agree.
whether or not we have vacant ones. As just a follow-up, the state only passed, I believe, half a year's budget for human services. Have you made any adjustments for that, and what's your plan because of that?
We have, but for CYF, they have told Julie has been on calls where they are going to be flat funded. So we're not expecting any cuts there. And since they approved the positions, that means that the salaries will come with those. There was something else, but I lost it.
Are you finished?
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Myers?
I don't want to ask this question because it'll scare the hell out of me. I'm going to ask anyway. How many people are we losing to better salaries?
I don't know that it is many. Look, if the state wants to give us more money, we'd be thrilled to pay our staff more. I don't think that's the most critical piece. I really think it's casework, caseload sizes, paperwork. There's a kind of a whole lot of things we need to shift, and I know Ms. Fargo Hefner has asked about, what has the state done? Well, we still have just as much paperwork as we did 2 years ago when Kevin Dolan was here talking about that. It is helping that they're changing the ratios of caseload to caseworker and caseworker to supervisor. So they're forced to give us more positions, so we have to, we're sort of going to be, at some point, forced to take positions or would be out of compliance. But to your point, Mr. Cusick, we have to be able to fill those positions and keep people in those seats. But I don't think we're losing too many to higher paying jobs. It's more lower stress jobs.
And they're moving for various reasons. So we're training people and we're losing them out.
Absolutely.
I think that happens all the time, doesn't it?
That's been the history of children and youth. I mean, the good news is most of those folks stay within human services. And when I started, Mr. Coroner and I had conversations about it, and we changed the time frame in which other divisions can take an employee from CYF. So it used to just be, 14 days, you're out of luck. And so it's pretty much a 30-day minimum. Julie had somebody recently, I said, I don't care if it's 4 months. That person can't go until, we don't want them to leave, right? We don't want to lose somebody who's just burnt out. But we're in a situation where there was only a couple of people certified to do certain things and certain investigations, and that just was the decision we had to make. And yet we allow some flexibility, so sometimes we've let people go up part-time to aging and half-time to CYF until we can make that full transition.
How many bilingual?
That's a great question. I think we have, for sure, within the whole Department of Human Services, about 25 folks who we know have presented to us as bilingual. They are not all in Spanish-speaking bilingual positions,
Right.
but they are bilingual.
Anyone else? Mr. Heckman?
Sue?
Yes.
I guess, how many casework vacancies in CYF do you think you have now?
Julie knows the answer to that question.
Okay, but I'm,
Not sure we want to talk about it, but.
well, no, I mean, because it's not anybody's fault that's in this room.
State mandates it.
Right now, if you're just caseworkers, I have 17 vacancies.
Yeah, and I
have-
wanted to point out, if I could, and Sue, I mean, you probably found this out. This isn't unusual. I think that's been the case probably as long as you've been with the agency. It certainly was the case going back probably 30 years or more. And the question about pay and whatnot, when we have the ability to hire our own, you get your own list, let's say, put it together. Are you then able to hire people at a rate? I know you could bring them in higher now, but you can hire them, you can set a different salary schedule. You're still going to get the same state reimbursement formula.
We bring everybody in essentially at the same level, Mr. Heckman, and we don't have a problem hiring new staff.
Yeah.
We are not, there is no
Right.
shortage. I mean, we do, that's not true, but it's not, because but that's a civil service. I mean, we
Yeah.
volume all at one time. But we're not having people say, no, thank you, that salary is too low for me.
Yeah, no, I guess the thing I'm wondering is, and I don't think there's going to be an answer, because I used to have this discussion with Mr. Dolan all the time, and this has been an ongoing problem, and like you said, CYF has generally been a training ground for other divisions.
Yep.
Because you're right, there are some people that just don't want to do it. And I know I'd get in trouble with other caseworkers, but CYF casework was the hardest casework that I think in the agency. And I know the mental health workers and everybody would get mad at me, but that's okay. It just is. Just based on the stress and the amount of work you have to do.
Mr. Heckman, I regularly offer folks the chance to go back to the second floor for CYF,
You
and
don't
so
get
far
10
I've had
takers.
one taker.
Okay. But I mean, I think the thing too is, and I think this is something that was suggested for years, but the union's going to have to buy in on it. And it was the idea, well, gee, there are some people who maybe if they made more would stay. But the problem we had was even if we'd offer them more money, and because sometimes you say, well, give more money, that's the answer. And I guess that's what I'm driving at.
Sure.
They have the right to transfer. So until we somehow work that out, if we can ever work that out, I don't know if we're going to solve this problem that's gone back longer than probably a lot of us in the room here have been around Northampton County politics. And it's just, it's a tough issue. And I'm just saying it to our board here. It's a problem that doesn't have a simple answer.
No,
And
and
it's going to take a buy-in from all the stakeholders.
Yep.
And I mean, I might as well get a union rep mad at me, but at the end of the day, that's why I used to say to Kevin, we got to fight for a separate CYF classification. And then at the same token, if you're going to transfer, let's say you're making 50 grand after whatever, then you're going to go back to a certain step. I doubt if they'd ever agree to that, but I mean,
No, but the concept
I don't want to
is-
be a negative Nelly here, but the problem I think is bigger than a lot of us in the room here. And until we make some major structural changes,
Yes, I think that
it's gonna be
out of
tough.
civil service and the ratios will absolutely help. We will never get away from the folks who come in through CYF to get somewhere else because, or who think that's what they want to do and then they say, holy crap, that's not what I thought I signed up for. So, yes, please.
Mr. Heckman, you're absolutely right. And one of the things Ms. Wondolowski and I have ruminated about, and only ruminated, is the right of transfer. That is a change that would make all the difference in the world, even if the period were extended. Not a complete bar, but a period of years would make all the difference in the world.
You're right.
Again, just a rumination.
Maybe you could have Mr. Dertinger go in the room with the union reps and ruminate.
Any other questions or comments?
Move forward.
Motion to move forward by Mr. Myers. Thank you, Mr. Myers. Next on the agenda, we have another human service request, prepared calculations of the financial impact of creating one new position and eliminating one current position. Eliminating one financial assistant and creating one clerk typist two in the Division of Mental Health, Early Intervention, and Developmental Programs, and eliminate one data analyst in the Division of Program Centralized Data. Okay. So attached, you will find the financial impact, the justification statements, and a memorandum.
I can give you a brief summary if
Please.
that's helpful. The second one is even easier. The data analyst, last year in the budget, we created a data analyst 2, or some step between a data analyst 1 and the supervisor in that division. So there's a more of a natural step progression for being promoted and whatnot. We were missing that middle step, and we needed that. And so that was filled internally, and so now we can eliminate that position. So somebody from within that division filled it, but we didn't want to eliminate that before we knew if that was going to be the case. So the one we created January 1 has been filled, so we can now eliminate it. And I think that was just an oversight on our part to not get here sooner for that. The other one is actually, I think it reads a little bit differently than it is. We have a clerk typist 2 / fiscal tech position in early intervention because it was always clerical. We actually only changed it a year or 2 ago to add fiscal tech work. And somebody was in that position, and it really it didn't come to fruition in the way that the administrator had envisioned. And the person in that position was promoted. She's in an accounting position now. So while it was vacant, we took the time to really think about that and decided that, in fact, we didn't need that fiscal tech piece in there. Now that everybody's gotten their feet a little wetter in that division, we only need that to be a clerk typist 2 position. So it's just downgrading a position. So we're eliminating, it's a downgrade of a position, sorry. Questions?
I don't have any. I think you did a great job explaining it. Anyone else? Comments, questions? I'd like to, motion to move forward. I'd also like to thank you and your department and everyone that came out here tonight to explain everything and everything that they do for the county.
I appreciate that. It was a
important
lot,
work.
it's a lot of positions, and Julie did a great job, and I appreciate Mara being here too, so, and my other folks. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anything else for personnel? Going once? No? Then we'll look for an adjournment. Motion adjourned. Do we take 5 minutes or do we move right in?
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I might need a minute because I'm being told that there are a couple things that were missed on this agenda. So can we take 5 and see if we can add them to the agenda, please? All right, 5-minute recess.
Did I what?
Did you see my text?
I did?
You're not gonna get arrested.
Are you kidding me? Listen. These things are.
She's been sitting. Oh.
Even somebody who's
That's okay. She said, don't worry about it. These are hard to breathe through. These are hard to breathe through. Yeah, I mean, I find it hard to breathe through this. It's a little harder to breathe through than. Is it over? Yes.
So this is, I added stuff to the agenda, so nobody gave us this information. So it's my oversight. Okay. I heard it going through when I do it.
Yeah, no, that's. No. No, we were asked, we were requested by Arts Fest. Not at all.
And I need to talk to Julie desperately.
We'll tell them about it.
So I'm gonna add them for the controller. Like, how fast can you talk?
Quickly.
Can I talk to you?
I understand.
Yeah.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You got 100% correct.
Don't run away. I understand that. I didn't know something. Okay.
still recording, just to let you know.
Yes.
I need you then, please.
Are these worth anything? We all sit back here.
Fridays is good. Fridays?
Yeah.
That's great.
And you know what?
You're gonna be dead.
No, you're gonna be laying there. Thank you for putting me in the freezer. Depending on who gets there first, you're gonna see. No, not really. I mean, usually, that's the kind of thing that, Linda would take care of.
Okay, recover from our day the other day? Oh, man. Hey, Tony. How you doing, Tony? Yeah, hi, how are you?
I'm good, Ron, how are you?
Oh, Yeah, you roll with the punches.
All right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you fall down.
Are we on here? Well, no, who's on my committee?
I am.
1, 2,
Mr.
3.
Kusick, you got 3.
Who's 4?
I don't know.
Kevin, are you finance or is Bill? You wanna grab McGee?
He's probably doing.
All right, well,
You can tell it to order.
I'm gonna call this to order, and
Wait, just 1 sec. Gotta get a recorder.
I'm gonna take this off. Because we're gonna talk, all right,
You're a rebel.
I know. All right, do we have any courtesy of the floor? We do not. Okay, I need to add something to the agenda because it was an oversight, and I'm not sure quite frankly whose oversight, what it was, but we have the budget amendment to discuss. Ms. Cozy is here purposely to discuss this, so I'd like to put this on at this time and allow her to come forward at least to discuss her portion of it, because she was told that we would be heard. And again, I apologize, there was miscommunication. I believe Aileen passed it out to everyone.
Okay. I have it. Fine.
I'm here for money.
Well, that's what we do.
I need a lot of it. I'm not sure what you have in front of you. Do you have all the pooled increases? Okay. Do you want me to go through each one? Or do you have specific questions, or do you want me to just?
Well, if you have a statement, I think, that you need to make, that would be helpful, because that's, you said you have a lot to say, so have at it.
Well, I'd just like to paint you a lovely picture of what's going on in this office right now. It's only August, and our phones ring so much about everything from election law to the post office to mail-in ballots and everything else. It's been a challenge already to just do the stuff that is required of our office, like registering voters and processing applications. So this is fairly urgent just because I can see the writing on the wall for November, and it's going to be very difficult to get through. Certainly, it'll be impossible without this money also. I'm just going to start with the pooled communications. That's a massive increase you'll see. We were required to have return postage on all of the mail-in ballots now, so that's a large chunk of that. Also, the printing costs for the Act 77 mail-in ballots is exponentially larger than anybody anticipated. So that's what that increase is.
That's in the communications.
That's the pooled communications. That's for postage and printing. The admin supplies, that was, we moved to a different office, and we hired an additional employee. That was furniture costs and expansion costs. The pooled transportation was just a general increase, just because we saw a slight increase in the primary. We would make sure that we didn't go over budget there. The professional services is our on-site support from both 10X and ES&S. The reason that's in there is because we are going to be spread so thin trying to make this election happen with who we have in the office right now, that without their support doing the LNA testing and the election day support, we don't have the bandwidth to complete it.
And is that not part of their original contract to be on-site and do
No,
those services?
This isn't like contractual maintenance. This is, we need bodies here to help get the job done. The purchase services, that's our ballot coding and our trucks to move the machines. The operating costs, this is our election worker salaries. So the reason this went up so much is because we increased our training salary to $50 per training. And I don't know if you noticed, but we had a lot of poll workers quit on us in the primary and new equipment, so we had to train literally hundreds of poll workers, some that didn't even end up working. So that put us way over budget on the cost of the poll workers. And then an increase to the overtime and the part-time, just because based on what we saw in the primary, it's gonna be at least that or more. We have triple to quadruple the amount of work this time around.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why isn't poll workers' salary contingent on them actually showing up on election day?
It is.
Oh, it is?
It is. It is.
So what happened then?
Well, it's not necessarily that we paid this exorbitant amount of money for a bunch of people that didn't show up to work.
Okay.
But we had to literally train every single poll worker. So we're talking 900 people got that $50 training fee. Whereas we normally train only new workers and they were getting $10.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So the number of new, okay, I got it. I see what you're saying. Very good. Yes.
That
Sorry.
and in a presidential year, you are required to have a training prior to the election at some point throughout the year. So they were required to come to training, and obviously we had a lot of new poll workers who had never done this before and had to be trained. So
when they return in subsequent elections, do you have to train them again, or?
no, so the cost, that's why the cost is not going to be the same as it was in the primary, because we're not doing all of those trainings over again, but we do need enough to cover their election day work.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
Go ahead.
Just so I understand then, just for understanding, because I don't have the total, so I just did a real rough one. So what we're saying is, of the CARES Act funding we're getting, you're looking at transferring roughly 71,800 some change total into elections for the various items. And under the CARES Act, and I assume, well, we can, Mr. Barron would say, this is CARES Act funding to the elections, that's an allowable expense, and
So there will be, once the budget amendment goes through, once the postage is done, the CARES Act money will be spent. So the postage and the online voting is the easiest the easiest amount of money, the easiest justification we have for COVID spending. And the state has given the elections office its own set of money that comes in. Election security, and what was the other one called?
Just the CARES.
Yeah, it's about $380,000, I believe, with the two grants. One has to be spent within this calendar year, and the other one we have 2 years to spend.
So CARES Act funding is allowed for elections, that was.
Correct.
And you're saying there's around 300,000 of the million that will come from CARES Act funding?
Well, not from the CARES Act pool pot you're thinking of. Elections got its own set of money.
All right.
To offset some of that cost.
And that was how much?
380,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so then 380,000 will come out of CARES for elections, and then I'm assuming the other 620,000 is general fund.
It's gonna be general fund. Yeah, the only thing we're hitting the general fund for is the election stuff.
All right, no, that's,
Yeah.
I mean, look, with everybody talking, I mean, I want to make sure our election goes smoothly. I don't got a problem with what you're doing. I just wanted to understand how the numbers work, that's all.
Yeah, and you will see the CARES Act money, the money we have that is 173, 148. That is some of the money that's coming in, and we're
Okay.
gonna see other revenue that does come into that line item, but or that org. But right now we're gonna hit the fund balance.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, John, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a core function of what we do, so I'm certainly going to support this. I think for as much as the trouble you think you're in, there's a lot of counties in Pennsylvania that are worse. So just to make you feel better. To go back to the postage question, will we be sending one of those prepaid envelopes? I didn't want us to put stamps physically.
No,
How will that
the return envelopes are metered postage.
Okay.
It's
First class.
applied with a meter.
And this kind of just was a mandate from the governor. Is
Yeah,
all
this
this
is
funded?
supposed to be reimbursed as well. This is a
Will
reimbursed.
we get 100% reimbursement? I don't care.
That is
if
what
the
we are
state-
told.
Well,
And Mr. Keith, we're hitting fund balance right now. I don't know what that revenue is gonna be and how it's gonna be reimbursed, whether it's gonna be in phases. So I can't even project that revenue in the budget, because I don't know exactly the timing of it, especially since it's gonna be spent in November. We may get that reimbursement that has to go in as revenue for 2021, even though it's reimbursing a 2020 expense, because we're on the calendar year.
Right.
And the state government is on the fiscal year. So in the way of timing, that's why it looks the way it does.
okay.
Does that make sense?
No, I just wanted to make sure. It sounded the way that you presented it was that, we may have to pick up some of it locally.
I apologize.
If this is a mandate and the state wants to pay for it, go right ahead, but I don't think we should have.
We have to pay for it right now.
And
But
hopefully they'll
yes.
reimburse it.
Yeah,
Okay.
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. But we got to do it.
Yeah,
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes. Do you have a projected amount of mail-in ballots that you're going to have to mail out? Or applications that you've received, or?
We've planned for 100,000. Being on this roller coaster called elections, and the issues with the post office, we have a lot of people saying now that they don't want to use their mail-in ballot.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. It changes every day.
It does.
Can't keep.
But projected, you're saying,
We planned for 100,000. Based on what we saw in the primary, if it were to go exactly the same way, I would confidently say 100,000. Without a post office, people may change their mind.
but
I
they
don't
could
know.
always walk it in.
They can, but based on the volume of calls we've received from the general public, I don't know what people are going to decide to do. We'll probably
Yeah,
have
no
a
one
better
knows.
idea and maybe, I don't know, maybe next week we'll have a better idea. Who knows? Every day it changes.
Yeah.
So wait, how many, you say you're planning on 100,000 potential for the general. How many did you have for the primary?
We had to send out 47,000.
So you're just trying to double and optimistic, right?
Right
Did you have
now,
more
we have
questions?
about
Yeah,
40,
people have applied already, though.
we have about 42,000 processed applications so far.
Right now.
That includes people that were on the permanent list.
Okay. Wow, that's big. But you don't know, they might not turn them in, so they might show up on the day of the election anyway.
I think we're going to have a larger in-person turnout than we had originally anticipated. Yes. I think a lot of people are going to get ballots and then go in person to vote. So I think we're
Mr.
just going to
Myers,
have
wait.
2 really big elections.
That was my name.
Awesome. Okay. That's not stressful at all.
Nope, it's great.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Meyer.
There's an organization that's shipping applications to people's homes. I've already gotten 4
Wow.
for me and my son. I'm just,
Yep. We get bombarded with those phone calls too, and it doesn't have anything to do with us. We have no way of knowing who sent them. Whoever gets them has to look and see paid for by. That's how they can determine who sent it to them. It doesn't have anything to do with us. We don't send anything
the
unsolicited.
interesting thing about it is you do it, the return address is coming to you.
Yes, I know, my name's on, it looks very official. Trust me, I have a lot of those phone calls every day, so many that we can't do our actual jobs. But it doesn't have anything to do with us, and we have no way of stopping it.
So those things that are coming to us, do we trash?
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you fill them out? What do you want
mean-
us to do? Because I'm getting it at my house, I'm also getting questions on what the hell to do with them.
The problem is they're blanket sending them to everybody.
Yeah, but their
whether
names are
they've
on
already
everything.
applied or not. So we're now processing duplicate applications, which takes us, that takes our time too. So now, we have to decline them as duplicate. We're spinning our wheels. It makes us spin our wheels.
But you still only get one ballot to a person, so it's
Yes.
not compromising anything. Let's just
It's
make
not,
sure
it's
we're
not compromising
clarifying
the
that.
integrity
Yes.
at all, because everything's checked. There's checks and balances on our end. But it creates confusion, it creates double the work for my staff. And it's just, even the well-intentioned ones, it's not great. It's not helpful.
Mr. Myers, you had the floor. Did you have any more questions?
Just one question. So a person who gets a ballot can also decide not to mail it in and actually vote? I can be clear and tell people that?
Yes, Act 12, when they delayed the primary, also allowed for spoiling of the mail-in ballot at the polling location for the November election. So yes, so now they can take their ballot with the envelope, has to be with the envelope. They can give it to the judge of elections who will spoil it, and they can vote on the machine if they so choose.
Just one other question I have for you. Have you heard, because I haven't been paying too much attention to the news, did the governor get an extension?
We have not received any official word from the Department of State. I've seen it printed in the newspaper, but nobody has told us that that has changed. So as of right now, 8 p.m. on Election Day.
Okay. If it changes, could you have someone send us an email saying that it is, so we're not looking stupid?
You'll probably get the email before I do. That seems to be how, we'll get the press release and then 40 seconds later, get the email from the Department of State.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm, we're not that much further in the loop.
Okay, you look tired, and it's only beginning, so
know.
best of luck to you. I'm done.
So do we have any more questions just on the financials? Because I think it would be wise for you to come back to regular council and just address process at another time. But do we not just give you another position?
Yes.
Have you hired that person?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Just financials. By the way, I thought the press, comments you made to the press were very good. There was an article about what Mr. Myers was talking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
No, it's confusing.
It's very frustrating for
And in
myself and our
fairness,
staff.
I mean, we face things like this with the county, not like this, but this is a big deal. And I get the sense with this election, it reminds me of the saying, "Oh Lord, help me my ship is so small and the sea is so big.
Is there a question?
Yep.
Is there a question? No, I'm just gonna make a speech first.
She has to go
and-
home. I'm trying to get her home to her children.
Oh, gosh. Hey, are you this tough on anybody else?
Yes.
No, you're not. Anyway, question is, I know you don't know today probably, but between now and the election, or even between now and the end of the year, because we don't know, as Mr. Cruz pointed out, he may extend it 2 days beyond, 3 days beyond, who knows? No one seems to know yet. Do you think you're going to need more money, or is it, I mean, is the potential there for having to transfer, to do a special budget amendment maybe for,
I
just curious.
I feel like these numbers should be
Should get you
sufficient.
through?
This, you know, we erred on the side of caution for most of these.
Yeah.
So, like I said, knock on
No, no,
wood, I think that
If there's one
we'll be
thing
fine.
we have to
Who
do-
knows? An election law could change tomorrow.
If
We
there's
have
one
to,
thing we
we have
have
to
to
hand
do
deliver every
is-
ballot. I don't know.
Stop putting that in the universe.
just-
Stop, stop.
I don't put anything past
Don't-
them at this point.
There's enough people out there putting that into your universe. You don't have to do it. This is the most important thing we're doing, the elections. I mean, and there's enough people out there kicking the elections around, you know, but I just wanted you to know, from my perspective, I think council, I would say, if you need something, you need it. We can always wash it out next year and look back and say, can change it. But as Mr. Barron knows, whatever we do, we can work it out. But whatever you need now, we want to make sure you get. That was my question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a statement, but it was a good statement.
There was a question wrapped in there too, by the way. Thank you very much for recognizing me.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Heckman, we will
Sir, I
have,
don't know if I'm allowed to hear you.
with this money in the budget, we will have enough to get us to Election Day. And if
Alright.
there are unforeseen costs, we do have a budget amendment in November. So with this passing of this amendment, plus whatever we need to do in November, we will be absolutely fine to meet all the salaries and the burdens for this particular office.
Sounds like a
Are
plan.
there any other questions for Ms. Cozy so that she can go? Okay. So Mr. Barron can come up and we can ask him questions about the rest of the amendment. Thank you, Ms. Cozy. Is there anything else on any other part of it that we have? I have a question about what they asked her that maybe you know that she doesn't know is, have we heard at all from Department of State about the money, about how much is, I mean, it's really just a big
What-
question mark? I thought it was
What money are you
the
talking
the
about?
reimbursement funds for election that we were,
That you mean the postage reimbursement?
no, the other stuff, the machines and all that
Oh,
other stuff.
okay, so there is 2.8
HAVA
million of
funds?
GEMS money. It's not HAVA funds, it's the GEMS money. You're talking about the money we used to buy, to get the
Right, right,
election
right, right.
60-40 match? Okay, because there's lots of flowing money.
Well, yeah, I mean,
But the 2.8 million we've been approved for it, so it's already been approved. I don't have a date yet of when it's going to be in our hands. My anticipation is, since it is approved, it will be sometime this year.
okay.
However, it is not in any budget amendment. If we do get it, you will see it in November. We've already expended the funds, so it's basically just a straight-up reimbursement at this point.
Sure. And what percentage of what we put out is covered by that 20?
Everything we asked for, we're getting. So I guess it's the 60-40 match, or however they decided they were gonna match it. So we're getting 2.8 million of what we put out, so.
Sounds good. And is there anything else here that you want to highlight for us or that we need to?
The only other real issue that's in there is the DA's office. There is a grant. He'd like to spend the grant funds this year, so we wanted to make sure we got that in this budget amendment since it was coming up and we knew about it. So
Is
that
that
was
for the
extra.
furniture?
In essence, what it's going to be is I think he's planning on using it for room dividers. But there are.
He's planning to
room
use it for
dividers.
room dividers?
Yeah, so it's literally grant money he's getting and spending. It's free money. I like free money.
Not a problem. Anything else?
No, that is all.
The P3 is on here.
That is just so as we get, the P3 is on there, but as you know, being on the GPA, they were behind on their payments. That money is budgeted from year to year. The only thing we put in the budget is the money for the year, and since they've made up and done bridges, based on what council is telling us, we are making sure that we get that money in and we pay it. We have the money in the budget. We're literally just moving it from the money we have put aside in the P3 Bridge Fund to the GPA so that it can be paid.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Mr. Keys?
Graysdale, is that the CARES Act funding?
It is,
2.4?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. And now we'll move to the controller's report.
Good afternoon. I'll be brief. Tony Basile sends his regrets. He's feeling a little bit under the weather, so I'm next man up, and I'll be covering the three reports that we have for this month. We have two hotels, and I'll handle those together. We have the Holiday Inn Suites in Bethlehem. We found in that report, we found routine errors, which we frequently find with the hotels. They didn't include certain fees that they're supposed to include in their revenue, and they took some exemptions which are not valid for them to take, and that resulted in them owing us $468.99. And we did a report on Wind Creek Hotel and Casino, and they had minor errors filling out their forms, but they did have 1 month where they significantly underreported their revenue, and that caused them to owe us $839.02. Do I have any questions on the hotel audits? Yes.
Yeah, one of the issues that came up with the casino hotels, I remember back when this was first passed, comps. If somebody has comped a room, is that something that you've taken into account?
We have, I'm not, it's been a long time since I did one of the hotels, and I'm not sure, but we do keep that. That is among our, I believe they pay revenue on that. I'm not absolutely sure on that, but I know that was something that was definitely addressed by us at one point, and we know how to handle those.
Yeah, I remember it coming up
Yeah.
previously. I was wondering if it was
Yeah,
still
and then
an
there's
issue.
comp in others, but the casinos are significant comp rooms, because
Yeah.
that's the way they are. I do believe they do. Yes, they do. Any other questions on the hotel audits? Okay. The other one is the statement of indebtedness. We do this annually. This is the only specific project that's assigned to our office in the Home Rule Charter. It's not an audit under government auditing standards. It's simply a statement. So we treat it as a non-audit service. Much of the information is derived from the work we perform for the external auditors, and can also be found in the county's financial statement, but we have some slightly different formats, and we include some information that isn't in the financial statements, including which funds were actually charged for the principal and interest payments, so that might be a useful piece of information to know. And at the end, we always provide a complete breakdown of a chart which projects all the principal and interest payments over the life of the existing debt and over the number of years over which that debt will exist. And that's another thing that I don't think you necessarily find in the county's financial statement. Any questions on the statement of indebtedness? No? Okay. All right, thank you very much. We'll see you again next month.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay. Review of Coroner's revised fee schedule.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What I've proposed is that we bring our fee schedule in accordance with state law. So the Act 154 was passed in October, or the end of October of 2018, taking effect, increasing the rates for 2019 moving forward to the numbers that I've set in this revised fee.
And I would ask that you consider passing this. This would be additional revenue that we would take in to help defer cost.
Oh, wow.
Questions?
Zach, who pays this? Who pays these fees?
So the fees are primarily paid by law firms, insurance companies. Occasionally, families will pay it, but what I've done is if a family contacts us with the intent to obtain a copy of the report, I take the time to talk to them and explain that if it's for the purposes of life insurance, they pay their policy. And as part of it, if the insurance company requires it, they have to pay for it. So I try to direct them to, and that does not come out of the, their funds that they would receive. If it's not for insurance purposes, if it's for just curiosity and to put in a drawer, I offer them the time, and I meet with a lot of families every year to go over page by page the autopsy report. So it's not often that a family, I think you could probably count on two hands the number of families that want a report. Why they want to pay for a report to put in a drawer, I don't know, but occasionally they do.
What about the cremation fee? Does somebody have to pay? If somebody wants to, that's a fee that people have to pay?
The decedent's
permit fee.
family.
That gets passed on, the funeral home pays it, and that is passed on to the family. So that is something, I'll be quite honest with you, originally I was not necessarily in favor of that, and county council had asked me to implement that, so we were consistent with counties across the state. That's a standardized fee. It actually used to be higher, and they made a mistake in the amendment that they did at the state level, which decreased it by like $25. So that probably will go up in the future. We actually, in theory, what the state's recommendation is to try to adjust it is create the cremation fee and add an administrative cost on top of it. So I just think that's,
I just don't understand why people pay $50, like for a license to cremate their.
It was on the bill. I could just tell you from my own experience, it's on the bill. The funeral home automatically puts it on and they say it's going to the coroner. So I didn't realize that
so
make
these
money off
revenues.
being dead, but you do.
Yeah, so these revenues that are produced, the legislation actually has these in place to ensure that coroner's offices and medical examiner's offices across the state, that this revenue goes into a fund to pay for their continuing education and any type of other fees that are necessary, certifications and so forth.
No, I understand.
This money goes into the general fund.
You're right. The cremation thing sticks in my head because for some reason somewhere, some special interest along the line hit up for, people get hit up for a cremation fee. I have no idea. It makes sense to me. I agree with you. We do this regularly to keep up to date. But
Yeah, and
I
that's.
never noticed that before.
So one of the things that we do is, we do accept credit cards for this fee. And the only difference is if they want to be invoiced. Some funeral directors don't want to pay it up front with a credit card, which has really helped us in our collection. I mean, we're at like 100%. But I would tell you that if they want to be invoiced, then the fee is $75 because of the additional paperwork.
Oh, so that's what the $75 is?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you get a piece of paper to tell you that you owe a fee, you pay 25 extra dollars?
That's exactly right.
Wow.
Well, it's a lot of time.
Wait till you
Oh, is
die.
it?
You don't know what's on there.
I won't know what happens
No,
when
you
I
won't.
die.
But when
this is
somebody you
like-
love does, you'll see.
But I teach a class at NAC on death and dying, and this is like some real Jessica Mitford stuff, you know? It's like nickel and diming you all the way to the grave. I'm sure it does help in continuing education, but
I mean, I think we should just make it very clear that this is in line with what the state's recommending, because I'm sure plenty of people in the county say, oh, they built a new building and they jacked the fees.
I'll be quite honest with you. When you look at the cost of what it costs the county and the taxpayers of this county to do the work we do, First of all, I'm very grateful for what the county council and this administration has done for our office. But you look at the cost of the operation, it's not revenue producing, generally speaking. So we offer a lot of time, effort, and services to families. For example, when we do an autopsy, the cost of that is quite expensive. And unfortunately, each year, the number of cases that we investigate and the time that we spend on cases continues to grow. I project this year we'll probably be at about 240 autopsies. So when you look at that, now if I look over the last 5 years, actually 6 years, the cost of autopsies have gone up 13.3%, so roughly 2.25% per year, but we stretched it out into one increase. The cost of toxicology services, so the amount of testing that we do on an individual goes up every year, the cost of that. You know, right now, you take, so far this year, as of the end of May, we've had 44 drug deaths. Those cases, it's not just one test that we're doing. Unfortunately, because these are potentially prosecuted as homicides or drug delivery resulting in a death, we've got to be very careful in how we do the testing and methodical about what we test for. When we're testing for all the analytical, synthesized drugs, the different forms of fentanyl, there's about 24 different forms of fentanyl at this point. It's very costly. What? So, you know, I know maybe when you're sitting and looking at these numbers, they may look kind of high. I'll be honest with you. When we charge for autopsies, I think we should charge $1,000. But I was voted down. That was my recommendation to the state. I sit on the executive board. I think toxicology should be $500, but the most they allow is $100 or $500 now. You know, it's a very, very costly endeavor that really, quite frankly, you know, it's incumbent upon the taxpayers to pay it, but, you know, there should be some type of trickle effect. The work we do, when you look at what we do in death investigation, does a lot for insurance companies. I don't resent 1 second charging an insurance company the rates we do. In fact, they should be triple what we charge them. Maybe that's inappropriate for me to say, but, you know, insurance companies don't care about anyone.
State that that's your opinion.
That's my opinion. You know, when you look at insurance companies,
You're not far off, because, you know, you're saying it goes to the decedent or it goes to the county, but, you know, someone else outside externally who has the funds is not paying the funding, so I don't disagree with what you're saying.
yeah, and what the work we do benefits so many other people. So when you look at, you know, civil lawsuits, you know, you have law firms that are involved in litigation. They utilize our work all the time. And, you know, that's a chance for us to recover some of those costs. And that's why I try to, you know, really look at these costs very carefully when we came, you know, together with these numbers to make sure that we're in line with the going rate across the state and to make sure that we're also getting the most, you know, bang for our buck, I guess, if you will.
Okay, motion to move forward to tomorrow night.
Second.
I think he wanted to ask questions, Mr. Myers.
Did you want a question?
My question was
Or
in reference to the autopsy thing, but, you know, I can ask you that privately, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Because-
I'll stay.
You do get the money from the funeral directors, though, right? You're
Absolutely.
receiving that. Is there an audit on that, making sure that whoever's
Yes,
paying
there-
it is coming to
There
you?
was, I believe it was last year, and forgive me if it wasn't last year, it was the year before, but within the last year or two, there was an audit done. So I can tell you our collection rate at this point is 100%. That has fallen on myself and my secretary. I have to be real careful. I can't penalize a funeral director who doesn't pay a bill. There's a few, let me correct that, who are problematic. So I found that it sometimes becomes very difficult in dealing with them. So it's very simple. I have a philosophy. If you want to do business with us, you pay your bill. So if they don't pay their bill, they don't get cremation approval until they come in with a check. We do not accept cash. We accept credit cards or checks only. So for the audit trail, it's very, very easy. And we've taken that position.
Okay. Okay, see you soon, hopefully in a new building.
You know, I just want to take the chance, I hope I'm not out of line. I got to tell you, first of all, I want to thank council for, it's so exciting. I know sometimes I probably don't show the excitement. It's kind of hard for me, but this administration, you know, Lamont has, you know, taken this and, you know, with council and you've moved this forward, Mike and Charles. And he probably gets mad at me sometimes because I question things, well, quite often. But I got to tell you, and I mean this from my heart, he's doing a fabulous job. He is staying on them for the times that we've done walkthroughs together. He's, you know, when you're looking at the time that he's investing in this, it's so valuable, and he's really keeping up on them, looking at all the details. And I think we're going to have a facility for this county that's cutting-edge technology, and it's going to carry us way into the future.
Good to hear.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
You went out.
Okay, next on the agenda is the review of Area Agency on Aging receipt of contributions from home-delivered meal participants.
Wondolowski also had childcare issues, but I think I'm conversant enough if there are any questions, based on the flurry of text messages I just received. I'm a quick study. Any
Well, I guess
questions?
I'm not understanding, we'll be requesting contributions from the participants?
Yeah, so I think part of what they do already, and we already get contributions, and so the charter requires council to accept any gifts that are given to the county. So I think what the intention here is to have a prospective resolution so that they don't have to come here every time they get $5
Oh, I see. So
from a
it-
meals recipient.
That was my question, because there was no fund, there was no
Right.
amount, so this is just,
Permission
you,
to collect.
like this, go ahead. Okay. Put motion to move forward then?
So moved.
Thank you. Review of appraisal waiver for the Mincy Lake lease with Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. Request to waive the requirement for the appraisals? Do we just, it's just simple? You don't like this, come up here by us. I'm gonna give him a seat up in the front.
Council has the right to waive the appraisals if the amount is not in controversy. Usually you need two. But if there's not an amount in controversy, you can waive the appraisals.
So there's no controversy, I guess, huh?
I don't believe there's a controversy.
Okay, so is that a motion to move it forward? There you go. That was easy. Next, review of contracts, Wind Gap Electric. Is
This is the solar for the, what does it say solar on it, 20 watt?
This is for the new crosswalk that we're gonna be constructing, the streetscape improvements project from the new parking lot across Washington Street to the Government Center.
So you're gonna have like a solar light there or something?
Yeah, they're solar-powered, rapid flashing beacons that will be controlled with a pedestrian push-button poles.
Wow, that's some fancy stuff.
Okay, are there any questions on the contract itself?
Yeah, I had one.
Go ahead.
2 failed bid attempts. This seems pretty straightforward. What was the issue? Why couldn't you get bids for this?
I think at first the project might have been slightly too diverse in some of the components. There was, there's electrical component, there's ADA curb ramps to it, landscaping component. So we essentially just dialed some of that back to just the core aspect of the project, which was just focusing on the crosswalk itself.
Okay. Motion to recommend to full council.
Okay, thank you. Vision Technologies.
predictive analytics project? Is that like facial recognition, or what is that?
This is the predictive analytics for human service. It was approved in the budget. It is the licensing and some of the hardware and stuff that's related to data storage and all that that project entailed that council approved at budget time last year.
Motion to move forward?
So moved.
And Grace Industries?
Yes, this contract is in regards to Phase 2 of the Norbath Trail resurfacing project.
Phase 2.
Any questions?
Yeah,
Yes.
similar one. We had 27 firms that looked at the RFP, but only one submission. Any reason that?
That one, I'm not sure of. This is a very straightforward project. We were certainly hoping for and expecting, a little bit more bids to be received on that.
Did you reach out to some of the folks that picked up the RFP and didn't, and find out why? Yeah, I would have thought the same thing. This is a pretty straightforward paving project. Were they just all busy? The reason we have competitive bids is so that bidders compete, and here we just got one, so.
I mean, I know we do hear pretty frequently that a lot of contractors with the pandemic, work was on hold for a few months and schedules kind of became a little backlogged. So they might be passing on some, smaller projects such as this.
Okay.
I know that we used Grace at the airport, and we had some issues with them.
No.
So- What? I know that we used Grace on a project at the airport, and we had some issues with them. What background did you do, or references?
Well, they submitted a pretty extensive, list of references and past project experience along with their bid. They've done a number of large-scale, building projects, roadway projects. I know they've done a lot of work in recent years for City of Bethlehem that have worked out well. I think a simple, trail resurfacing project is well within their capabilities.
They're the only ones that took the bid, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep, we gotta live with what we got. Somebody has to. Somebody. No, I can't. I'm not in that committee.
I'm not on the committee.
I'm not gonna make a motion because I want to hear from Brian Cope. I think he'll be here tomorrow, right?
He will be.
Yeah, I'd like to discuss this. Yeah, well, you can put it on the agenda. For me, I'd feel more comfortable if I know a little more. This is a pretty straightforward project, and for only one person to bid, I'd need more information. It just seems unusual. It's not that, it's not like that, the previous ones where it was pretty specific. This is paving.
Correct, yes.
Can I ask when the original RFP went out? Was that part of the problem? Like if it went out in March or something?
I don't know the exact date when it went out. I don't believe it was in March. I think it was closer to maybe probably around June when it went out for bids.
Okay. So, did anybody move it forward? Sure. Okay, thank you. Okay, and last, we have the financial statements and year-end first and second quarter. Steve?
So the long-awaited financial statements are finished. You will get a first quarter financial statement. The first quarter financial statement is already outdated. And since there's a lot of narratives that do need to be written with that, we thought for expediency, you would like something that would be more relevant, so we did the second quarter first. As you know, we were waiting for the books to close, so we had a final audited number that we could build off of from there. And then I'll answer any questions you might have about the financial statements.
So why don't we just take, in the interest of time, do we have time to do 2019, and then we can table the first and second quarter till September?
Fine with me. I'll
Because I didn't
answer,
realize that we'd have the other thing that we had to do for tomorrow,
I'll
so.
answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, I had pointed this out to you previously on page 37. It says that the budget is enacted through passage of a resolution. The budget is in fact an ordinance, so.
It is. I will make sure that RKL fixes
Yeah,
that.
I know, it's small, but I was reading it, I'm like,
Yeah.
that just hit me. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about is, I noticed that the pension was 99 point, I think it was 0.6 or 0.2% funded.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever seen it that. I mean, it's great, but I guess, typically you want it around 90-ish. Are we contributing too much to our, I know it's based on what the actuary tells us, but, and the market hit an all-time high today or yesterday. So I guess maybe it's a retirement board question or an actuary question.
No, having the honor of chairing the retirement board, and a couple of your members, 3 of them actually are here, are members as well. We do know, because we get frequent updates, that generally we're running in the high 80s and low 90s. That this is an unusual, and I think it's a timing thing. It's the moment in time they captured it. So to ease your mind, if you will, and I, as you know, because you've probably heard me say it once or twice through the years, I've always thought we overfund our pension, and I have begun to talk with our fiscal people about a more rational approach, not just throwing the money in there that the actuaries tell you to do, because, I'm not a big fan of actuaries, as you know, because I think they interfere in today's public policy for tomorrow's liabilities. And by tomorrow's liabilities, I'm talking 25 and 30 years from now, when the needs are going unmet today because we're taking all this money off the sidelines. So we're generally around, and I think Mr. McGee and Ms. Fargo-Hefner, Mr. Heckman will agree with me that we're generally in the high 80s, low 90s. So we're not running at 99.
Yeah, I mean, typically I've disagreed with you, but when I saw that number, I said, Mr. McClure might be onto something.
Yeah, it's a moment in time. We're running at about 90.
Okay.
Do we have enough time to do this tonight, or do you want to table this, or does anybody have questions on year-end statements? It's all good? Or you want to take some time and do it in September? Well, I need feedback, because I know I just got this today, but that's because I've had a problem with my computer. I saw that it came in July 30th online, but I haven't had a chance to review.
I did have a chance to review it. I mean, the fund balance increased by what, 3 million or so?
Approximately.
I think generally it was because of what we did with the refinancing and the human services building. So
That
we
is
took
correct.
that, what was it, 15 million or so that we had set aside, we financed it, and, that became fund balance money.
That is correct.
Graysdale lost $2 million. That was a concern, but I believe that because of the CARES Act, they should be made whole so far this year. So any updates there?
So we don't, Graysdale right now, with the CARES Act money, we're looking at that through the budgetary process. So right now, everything is stable there. With the CARES Act money coming in, and it changes on a day-to-day basis, but they're holding their own right now.
Okay. And we did have to make some accounting changes because of the P3 project was any problems with that this year, or?
No, so there were, what you'll see is, and this might be more reflective in 2020, you'll probably see that increase in the fund balance reflected in 2020. So remember, there's a timing issue because we had to put more money in. So while we had projected to spend the full P3 amount of money, that never came to fruition in 2019. But we're spending more in 2020, which you've made the budget amendments for. So while you might see that increase in fund balance now, it's gonna come down a little bit based on the fact that we're spending more money on P3 related projects. However, we have a fund in the budget that deals with that, because that 15 million that was put aside for the human services building is now in an org, and we draw that down when we make the P3 expenditures, just so you know where all the money's moving from.
The other significant increase was investment income. Well, to what do you attribute that?
Okay, so you saw all
I'd
the
like to-
increase, so in our.
I'd like some investment advice
our-
on how much it increased.
So in our CRIM accounts, we are now able to invest in low risk, but a little bit higher return commercial paper. So the municipal debt, the Municipal Finance Act allows us to do that. And we've been able to do very well with that. Brandon learned quite a bit from Duran, and we are doing very well. However, in the budget coming up, we're not getting the interest rates. And I think you see in the second quarter financial statement, our investment income, we've only hit 41%. And that was mostly like interest that we were gaining before the pandemic. We're not gonna hit, investment income is not going to be as high as it was. We've gone from doing really, really well to it's not gonna be very good. So just to kind of temper that, we're gonna get back to it eventually, and we're gonna keep implementing that strategy that helps us. But right now, don't expect that into the future because of what's going on in the financial
It was significantly
markets.
higher than what we had budgeted for, and I was just wondering what sort of investment advice we were getting. Those were the big ones I had.
So I'm going to suggest that we take a little more time, and we'll probably bring this back up in September, but we can, and ask any additional questions, because I don't know if anybody else had a chance to really redo.
I agree with you. I like to look at the paper. I can't read a lot on electronic devices, so
Okay,
I just got this, and I agree. I
so
think we should
thank
do
you,
that.
and then you'll get the Q1 when you can, as, before that to us, then you
Yeah, the
said.
Q1 will come out relatively soon.
Okay, thank you. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Sure do.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, we'll take 5 minutes and we'll get to our capital projects.
You know who put the cremation fee into place? Scott Parsons. Yeah, that was Scott Parsons that did.